Welcome everybody to the exhibition Waiting for the Grey Ship. As you see, there's the title and the participants and the supporters. And you see also our gallery. It's called Y Gallery. It was established around 7-8 years ago by Tartu City and Tartu University. It's sort of a public gallery which is supported by the state, different institutions of the state and the city, cultural foundation.
Why gallery?
The name is related with the Estonian word ülikool, which means university. The Y is some kind of an old-fashioned way of saying ü in Estonian. So it is the old name, and this year we changed our venue. This is a temporary venue. We don't know how long we can be here. It is sort of a guerrilla activity, actually, in a way. But it's supported by the university, because the university gave us this space. But as a return or exchange to our former space, which is in front of the main building. Now we're behind of the main building. So. Anyways, the exhibition, the idea of the exhibition came to my mind actually this year, spring, when I had an idea that we should actually, with the artists and also with cultural life, we should give some kind of a response to the ongoing situation that started with Ukraine crisis this year. And I had an idea that we should stigmatize one geopolitically very important spot in Estonia, which is the city of Narva. And it's sort of a periphery, it's been a periphery for years. It's a border city. But during this year, Narva has become world famous because American analysts, propagandists, whoever, or any other authors, they are speculating that maybe Narva is the place where Third World War is going to break out. Because who wants to fight for Narva? It's it's more than 80% Russian city, so they speculate that these local people there, they're starting to do something like Donetsk Republic. And I had an idea that if politicians are manipulating with people, also intellectuals, also with artists, writers, and so on, then culture should be stronger actually than politics. In Soviet time, culture, in a way, culture could beat the politics. Politics was corrupt and it didn't work out. It was super violent and it was super fixed. But culture was very flexible, and the cultural life could actually keep some kind of real life living in the same time while politicians were shutting everything down, in a way, the possibility of life. So I thought that in Narva we need artifacts in Narva, and we should make this exhibition in Narva. But then I kind of started to notice the general plans of Estonian institutions that were talking about different exhibitions to be opened in Narva. I kind of sensed this kind of political invasion to this city, and then I started to think on behalf of the local people that they should ask actually, where were you all these years? Why didn't you come here all these long years while you were keeping us as a periphery, totally forgotten place? Where were you? And now you are coming. So I had this thought, and I thought that it's not, it is not my... There are local cultural people already existing. Why not let them do their things? And I'm doing my thing in Tartu, and my interests are in much more different geopolitical contexts and so on. So, and in August we kind of faced the situation where another project in the gallery was postponed to December. So we had a blank space actually in October, and very quickly I decided to put up the kind of freshest reactions to the ongoing situations and mix it with some older artifacts to give this kind of time perspective to the thing, and to actually conceptualize the ongoing this year's situation as something that actually has been here present for years already. As we know, the whole world has accused the Baltic states as Russophobic, hysterical, unpractical towards Russian politics, and basically everything has been realized at global scale this year, but it has been existing already for a long time here. So to us actually this year events were not a big shock and surprise in a way. So new and the old together. Let's start from the works. The first work I would introduce is this video by Anna Hintz. She is known now more as a film director because she has studied directing and is doing mostly short films and now also documentaries. She's also working on Estonian folklore. She is singing in South Estonian dialect. She has some musical things she's doing, and she's also been an artist. So she made a reaction especially to this for this exhibition. It was filmed around 3 weeks ago in Narva. So there is in one side Estonia, where she is, and the other side you can see there is Russia, and now you see what she's doing.
It's like peace balloons? Like
yes, it's her peaceful gesture, symbolic gesture that I think it is somehow the most fundamental, or this is this work that in a way gives an answer, actually, very precise answer. How should culture, what is the function of culture, and also what should not only artists do, but also what should citizens do? Because I think also the main question of this exhibition is actually the function of art in the situation where the society is being militarized, and when everybody is saying that yes, maybe we will shut all the art fundings down more and more because we need to secure the society, we need to militarize, we have now different priorities. So now actually I actually say that the function of art is now to preserve the humanity and to rearticulate the humanity and the principles of humanism. Something that actually, let's say, the Western culture or anyhow the peaceful society outside the war period has been somehow gaining in the same time, while it has also had different problems, like different wars outside of the Western center. We have used to criticizing the West about this kind of fake peacefulness in the center, but war and instability in the periphery, like in the Middle East and so on, which is kind of the price of the peace in a way, and the welfare. But I think that now this is the moment of actually rearticulating humanism and showing the empathy, despite all the knowledge we have about Russia and about its politicians. And I also think that it stigmatizes this place, which is, I think, very important geopolitically now. It stigmatizes. It is necessary to have artifacts. It is necessary to actually historicize these kind of gestures and to have them as artifacts, as part of discourse for the future as well, but also for the present. So this is what I would like to actually point out in the very beginning, but maybe also in the end, somehow this kind of work.
What is this feeling of the letters? It's just design, or does it mean something? Just that there is this Consumerism.
Ah, you mean this small?
Yeah.
Ah, the company that was...
here as well.
Yeah, the company that made it cheated us. It means only this.
Oh, okay. No, that's all my question. Is there something like playfulness with the words, or
yes.
just is the way?
Yeah, I also thought that it's some kind of a design, but they cheated us, and I had to put actually everything myself. The guy who came here said that he doesn't have time enough. And so, well, we are living in new times where we cannot actually have this consumerist attitude anymore. This kind of consumerism we have been used to during the peacetime. But in every step you can see like this, this kind of war consumerism or some kind of.
So there's no time for art in these days.
And this is one artist who actually doesn't call herself an artist. She says she's a rather marketing person. She's a former activist in an anarchist movement actually, but she's now saying that she's a fitness marketing person and a copywriter, and this work is about actually started out of the idea how would you pack your luggage when you would have to leave very quickly. And she didn't have absolutely any idea, because how can you speculate on this? Because you cannot pack everything. I'm thinking about all those hundreds of books that I would like to bring with me in Estonian language. Some paintings, some furniture with a history or meaning of home and all these things. And so she also kind of stuck in it, and she has a friend who every time when she visits Russia, because she has some kind of nostalgia about Russia, every time she brings some Russian earth with her. And she also decided that she would just take the homeland soil a bit and her favorite book, and that's all. That's all she needs. But she also refers to this kind of propaganda war and this media manipulation and the commercialization of media. I don't know how it is in Lithuania and Latvia. We have bilingual Estonian media also in Latvia, but not in Lithuania probably.
And you have articles in Estonian and Latvian?
No, we have a bilingual Russian, Estonian and Russian. We have like one newspaper, which web version one is Estonian and the other is Russian. Mm-hmm. And we have this kind of schizophrenic situation now, that the Russian media is also pro-Russian. But the businessmen who are owning these companies, they are the same people. They are Estonian businessmen. Mm-hmm. So it is all about commercial interests. Because being pro-Russian for Russians means that people are reading, what they want.
There was recently, I think, a scandal about TVNet, who also is in Latvian and in Russian, and that the same information is totally differently put about the same thing in Latvian and in Russian. And so there was a big scandal that it's under one roof, but the information, how it's presented, it's totally different kind of ways. Yeah, so, yeah.
Let's go to the other side, because exactly this topic is something that this artist is working on. So she's one Estonian artist who has been living in this kind of Russian language zone because her grandparents or great-grandparents, they moved away from Estonia to Georgia and Russia, and then they came back. So they kind of got Russianized, but they were Estonians. They came back, and she is bilingual, and she has been working on this kind of conflict. We had this bronze soldier event in 2007 in Tallinn, and after this we had this huge tension in the society between Russian-speaking people and Estonian, and she made this work in 2009 as an internet image and stickers. You can have this, and this is from 2009, and the statement is that there are different tongues, but they're the same people, or different languages and the same people. And she is also researching this kind of media conflict. She's been working on this for, I think, more than 1 year. She is analyzing Estonian media and Russian media, and bringing it up in internet, in Facebook, one community. She is noting very often when she picks something out that, for example, Estonia now recently adopted the gay-friendly partnership law, and Estonia is now the first post-Soviet country to do this. And when some people went to celebrate this law, they were happy that the politicians adopted this law. Then Estonian media had a headline that people are celebrating this thing. But Russian-speaking media was like a decadent people are celebrating the new partnership law or something like this. So there is this schizophrenical split, and while the capital actually is the same. So this we actually now have the proof about this media that the logic of capital actually holds the conflict within. It is useful for the capital, even if it is Estonian capital, to keep the apartheid, because it is all commercial and market-based. So this work, it is something now to focus on a lot. There is a lot like details and text to read. But this artist, Eva Sepping, she's been making a PhD in artistic research last 4 years, and she is working with nationalism, and she's kind of articulating nationalism through Estonia and through Russia. Because somehow Estonian identity, or the whole Baltic identity, has been based on exclusion of Russia, or kind of exclusion of also certain history, and also certain language and certain culture and certain geopolitical reality. So because of her work, she is traveling a lot in Russia. Very often she is hitchhiking by the road. And then very often she is asking for shelter from local people to spend the night in somebody's place. And she has a lot of stories to tell, of speaking with local people. So one way is her postcards series that she did. For example, this summer she went to Pskov, and the village is near Pskov, and Did you know this news about these descent soldiers from Pskov military base that were sent to Ukraine and they got killed there? And then there were funerals and Russia denied everything. They said that, but those were accidents, people died in different reasons. There are state funerals, but those from Pskov, they were not sent to Ukraine. But actually, those were people who participated in Ukraine war, as we could predict, because this artist accidentally went to the cemetery where was the funeral of these descent soldiers, and she made this photo where you can see this is this, what is the first name? Yakunin, Russian politician of transport and railways, as I understand them. Yakunin is in the first row, and then some important Russian politicians, they were in the funeral. So she is, I think that kind of artistic activity is also necessary for us to be actually very precise what are our sources of knowledge. That all our sources of knowledge are actually based on media, critical media, reflected media, also propagandist media, different. But there is a chaos in this actually. We don't know what to trust. But personal experience and then this kind of artistic spying activity and collecting materials and documenting is, I think, a very necessary measure, especially for the culture. Not for the culture that should not be actually be dependent on media, but actually dependent on people's freedom in a way, and according to the principles of humanism. We should have freedom of movement and all these privileges, you know. And she is using this kind of freedom of movement, and this is not even this European Union freedom of movement, which is Schengen based and jet set and so on. But she is actually following the logic of this location where we are from. We are basically from the Baltic states and we are surrounded by Russia, and actually this is the reality where we should be present and where we should be active, I think. This is my opinion about her work. And this video she filmed near Moscow in 2008 already. It is a village of Karelian people who lived in eastern Finland and who moved out probably in the 19th century when the Tsarist Empire was giving the land to peasants everywhere. I think that happened then, or maybe even before. Anyways, this is a Karelian village that has been Russianized during the history, and she managed to film a village event, this patriotistic singing you can hear later, and also military exercises that were performed during this. And it's already 2008, so it is nothing, you know, nothing new. And you can see what the guy is talking about. This is this typical Russian ideology to protect the Rodina, and the Rodina is always under attack of the enemy, and it relates the possible threat to the homeland with masculinity, personal duty, and also Orthodox Church religion. So you can see there is this kind of religious militarism, but also traditionalism very heavily.
There was a presentation in this year's Survival Festival seminar where the kind of reenactments of historical wars and also military exercises initiated by civil people in Russia were researched and documented, and there are actually people are buying the military clothing and going into the woods, and it's some kind of a grown-up playground or something.
And it was part of the survival kit as a side event or something?
No, it was presented in the seminar, this research.
Okay.
It's also actually very popular in Germany, for example, to reenact some wars from the Second World War. Like some battles, not some wars, but some battles.
But it's mostly these kind of nationalist movements.
Yeah, no, and I'm pretty sure it has, on the background it has this live action role-playing tradition, and it's also like some kind of entertainment, and but it's like, it depends a little bit. The ideology here and there is different. Yeah? So in Scandinavia we try to be the Vikings, and
the activist of this Donetsk Republic, Strelkov, who was here. He was also a big fan of those games. So it's somehow this hyper-realism mixing with the real reality, which actually makes me also to question this kind of this period, this post-Soviet period of late modernity, of this Baudrillardian sense of hyperrealism, or this kind of Fukuyama post-historical, post-ideological position, which has actually kind of made people to lose the connection with the reality, and to lose the connection of consequences of one's activity and desires and so on. So I think this situation should also put culture in this position to rethink all these things that we have experienced during the last 25 years or something.
In this context, actually in the context of all that you have told, I actually find it quite intriguing that you included Toomas Thetloff's map into the exhibition.
Yes.
For me, it always was actually kind of way, very provocative.
Yes.
And
this is the work by Toomas Thetloff, and the first version of this he made in 2008 while he was visiting for some months Georgia, Tbilisi, and he was there during the war. Basically, the war happened while he was there, and it was like a coincidental event for him, and this is something he did. If you noticed, he also did cut out Abkhazia, no? Or anyways, this kind of Russian part near the Black Sea. And now we could also talk about what more should we cut. Anyways,
America.
Yeah, its name is Ideal Landscape, and actually it reflects this kind of Western point of view in different angles. For Estonians, it means, of course, provocation, and also refers to Russophobia and so on. So, but somehow this map has also been like in a very strange effect that several visitors have told that what is the point of this work? That where is the problem? They don't notice. They see this as the northern coast of Russia, basically. Yeah? So they, their sense of the world map is already kind of excluding a big part of the world in the level of kind of perception already.
And they just don't know geography.
Yeah, true as well. Although they live in this place, and they should understand that they don't have an East Coast Ocean or whatever. And yes, that was a provocation, but also as a repetition, or a kind of a cynical repetition of some kind of ideology. And so this work is actually now, I think it can be put into the ongoing situation and the context where actually it is up to us to now analyze and think about this kind of worldview. And this is something that has been present, and as it is somehow belonging to the past, kind of as an anachronistical problem, anachronistical mistake for the West and for us as well, it is confronted with the other work. So it is in opposition. And in between there is the grey ship as this abstract figure, and the sound installation of Krišs Salmanis that is filling up the room. And that was actually the aim, to bring the old anachronistic archetypes as well into the exhibition. The conflict and the solution. The solution that she did in 2009, post-Bronze Soldier time, and that he did also as a reaction of Georgian war and the wave of this kind of justification of Russophobia.
What is the metaphor behind the grey ship?
Grey ship. That comes from my text as a critic of Artichoke Biennale this year. I wrote about Jass Kaselaan's work, and the title of my text was Waiting for the Grey Ship. So this, according to Kaselaan, this is just an object, as he told, without meaning. But in fact, as an input concept, he was talking about his habit of being in the seaside at night and looking at the lights on the sea. So this is definitely something marine related, and it has different connotations, but I kind of noticed all at once the issue of a Mistral deal. The issue of a Mistral deal, but not only, because there is always a Mistral deal. We have a Mistral deal, and France and Russia are making a Mistral deal. But our Mistral deal is that we would like to have a Mistral maybe in our sea that would belong to United States, not Russia, yes. But in both cases, for us, historical as well, this kind of grey ship has been always meant, it has been a trouble. So it doesn't matter if it's American Mistral or Russian Mistral, it always for us means really bad things if one of those should arrive one day. In Estonia there is a legend from 19th century, the white ship legend, if you have heard, no? That there was a Christian, or kind of a Christianic sect, a religious sect in 19th century that gathered around one guy who named himself as Prophet Maltsvet. And Prophet Maltsvet, he was like, he has been analyzed by theology scientists and different others. He was like somebody who in 19th century already was acting like somebody who kind of gathers people around him and has this kind of powerful effect and the ability to make people believe in his words and himself. So he kind of created the myth of a white ship that people, the members of the sect, started to wait, that the white ship should arrive to the Nordic coast of Estonia and bring all those people and bring them to the promised land. But there was a reality behind this promised land, that the Russian Empire was also giving new land in different places in Russia, like in Siberia, in Caucasus, and in Crimea. So all these people actually had also practical sense, not only religious, but also practical desire to get a new, better homeland in the Crimea, Caucasus, or Siberia, and as the prophet said, that the white ship will come and bring them there. So this myth or this legend, not a myth, but it's actually a fact. But it became a legend and somehow transformed to culture. So we have this saying, like white ship always in Estonian language or the consciousness means hope for something. So grey ship, on the other hand, can have bad connotations, almost like being the opposite to the white, basically. And yes.
It also looks like a blockhouse, a Soviet blockhouse.
True.
Combined with the ship. It's like metaphors for society.
Or a prison on the island.
Prison, yeah. Prison or refugee kind of
And the other work you chose from Artichoke Biennale is Krišs Salmanis Ode to Joy.
So this is another somehow embodiment of the fear, actually. And the other aspect is also fear, because people are afraid, and some people are afraid to be afraid. That they are afraid to be stupid, they want to preserve their comfort zone in being cynical, in forcing everything. Oh, it is only blackmailing, it is only propaganda, I'm so smart, I'm over this all, And this is the Ode to Joy by Krišs Salmanis. I think he pretty intentionally created this work to make it accord to the kind of geopolitical situation. As he said that it is kind of the quick version of, or slowed down version of European anthem. And if you are carefully listening, then you understand that they are howling the European anthem. And I think in our cultural space, this is always related with some kind of war, wintertime war, threat, something negative. And also wolves here in Estonia, they always mean Russia, Russian wolves are coming and attacking. But also, if it is ode to joy, and if it is put into this context, then actually we don't know who are the wolves, because wolves are just animals, and wolves can live in different places, although they don't live in Central Europe or Western Europe. They are living in Eastern Europe mostly. But they are howling the European anthem, so how come can they do this? Who are they actually, So this is actually the, what is the source of the fear, and who is the vehicle of the fear, and who is actually the one to be feared. I think this kind of connotation this work has, or the meaning of this work in this exhibition is like
from the wolf to the fear.
No, the wolves that even like I don't know, maybe you have also in Latvian or Lithuanian tradition like that. There are those in Estonian. They are depending on the dialect. They are peninukid, also koirakoonlased, the dog-faced. And I think it somehow refers back to Ivan IV, that some of his some of the troops were actually they had as decor on their horse saddles the skull of a dog. I think it refers back to that, but according to the myth, yeah, if you go further east, then there is the end of the world, and it's guarded by the dog-faced. So yeah, the wolves come from east always. It's like.
Yeah, I think the dog face is meant Tatar soldiers.
Yeah, might be. I don't remember, but it was some special troops who had they were wearing those dog skulls.
Yeah, that's true.
Because this work for me, for example, is very interesting. That the way how he has recorded it, how he has made it, it's not just wolves. You can hear some other things happening, and for me it's like a sound landscape of something, and a very classical in a way landscape that has this strong sense of this winter landscape somewhere very far in the northeast or whatever. Yes. And that there is this, that it's actually not happening, for example, in a wood where it would most normally be, but it's somewhere near wood, and the wolves are inside the wood, and you are somewhere near the wood, and there is snow, and it's probably cold, and somebody's making the sound of cough.
So actually, some first versions of the audio actually included walking on the snow,
It is also here.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He did not take it down.
One old man, I think.
It's like you can hear it when you walk the snow is like, in Latvian we say gurkst, that the snow is gurkst, like it is sound.
So, what about the last video?
Yes. And there is another angle of the direction of the threat or direction of fear. So this is a Polish artist, Karolina Kubik. She is actually a performance artist, and therefore she says that it's not really a video but a footage of an activity. The name is The Kiss of Death, and there is a sculpture or monument in Barcelona having the same name. It's like a dying man has this kind of almost this position, and death that is having wings, like a huge bat or vampire wings, and the skull as a head is kissing the man. And this is her and the curator doing this. This work was first shown in an exhibition, so it was meant for another event, but she connected this, I think, later with the ongoing situation that has that was affecting her activity since the beginning of this year, because I have been also working with this artist as an artist myself, and we have been working on, we did a performance together in Kaunas, this kind of live art festival, Krišs, this year in May, on the topic of the NATO troops sent to the Baltics and Poland. So The Kiss of Death, she relates this work with Obama's visit to Warsaw. So in the beginning you can hear Obama making a speech, and for us Estonians it's pretty surprising, because in Tallinn, when Obama was here, his speech was super mellow. All people were melting, like really, we all felt like, oh, it's so touching, so personal, so nice. But in Warsaw, actually, the speech was much different. He was basically yelling. And to me, it reminded this kind of Cold War speeches by Kennedy a bit. And he was yelling, and like Poland will never stand alone, Estonia will never stand alone, Latvia will never stand alone, Lithuania will never stand alone, and like this. And if you listen to this from the beginning, you can hear. Basically, it responded to the speech in some moment. You can see when Obama has his big statement and the picture gets stuck like a monument or artifact for some seconds. So this is also one aspect she wanted to do, also to memorize or make the main part of the speech as an artifact or a monument, somehow conceptual monument. And yes, the direction of the fair, she is actually looking more into the west than into the east, as west is actually the source of our concerns, mostly because this is actually the position where we are standing. We are standing in the west. We are the periphery of the west, of course, but the enemy of the west is our close neighbor and maybe even part of us.
Where does the artist come from?
Who?
The artist?
She's from Poland, from Poznan.
Tanel, have you previously curated any exhibitions?
No. I think this is my first curated exhibition. No, not really, but in this kind of correct sense.
Correct.
Because I have done underground exhibitions, yes, in some horrible conditions and then like very guerrilla style, but in the sense of, like having a correct, I mean, almost correct space and like institutional support, then I think I'm curating the program of the gallery, but that's this year's my so to say my own curatorial project here.
How does it differ from your artistic approach? Like from what you're doing as an artist?
It doesn't differ much, actually.
That was actually why I asked. I could feel in the exhibition, actually from the start, like when you announced it, and when I knew approximately like whom you chose and all that, and when I saw it during the setup, then that it is in a similar way built up as your own works are. That you have those. Like in a way statements or verbalizations, actually even the works start to in this context work as sentences or like a phrase, like it says this and that says that, and so
maybe this kind of argumentative.
Yeah, exactly.
Argumentative setup. Yeah.
But thanks for the tour.
Thank you for coming.